Explore your interests both in and out of school. As you heard them say about the dance and the culture, get involved in that kind of stuff. Not everything is purely academic. When you're looking at colleges, they really like to see a wide variety. What are you gonna bring to their campus? Learn about the opportunities at your school. Some schools offer more AP classes than others. IB, International Baccalaureate. Some schools have those programs, others do not. See what your school offers. You can talk to your school counselor about that, your admin. Really take advantage of your resources. That's what we're there for. With that being said, at the end I'm going to give you guys my contact information, so you guys can always email me or call me, and I'm happy to do some research on your school's behalf as well. Challenge yourself in your classes. If you're in middle school, start thinking about what you think you can handle as a 9th grader. Maybe don't go in and start taking 6 AP classes off the bat. You're going to burn out. But think about taking 1 or 2 honors, 1 or 2 APs. And same thing for 10th grade. Don't burn yourself out too quickly. And then 9th and 10th grade is really about developing good habits. Make sure you're getting to class on time, all those things your teachers are telling you. Get to class on time, do your homework, don't start skipping, things like that. Just really develop those when you're young and in high school. And then network. Use the people at your school. That's what we're paid for. Your 9th graders, start getting to know your counselor. Start getting to know your assistant principal. Get to know your teachers, join clubs, talk to the juniors and seniors. Just really get to know the people in your school. It's going to pay off later. Talking about AP, raise your hand if you know what an AP class is. Okay. So AP Advanced Placement, those are going to be the most rigorous classes at high schools. Each high school is going to offer a different set of AP classes. When you're applying to colleges, it's going to be important that you have a few APs in your transcript. Your transcript is all the classes you took from 9th to 12th grade. So you're going to want to have a handful of APs. If you're looking at different schools, the amount of APs is going to differ. If you're trying to go to Georgia State, maybe you want to have 2 or 3 APs. If you're trying to go to UGA, maybe you want to have 7 or 8. If you're trying to go to Georgetown, probably 8 or 9. But that's going to be rigor. That's going to show the schools that you're challenging yourself. Dual enrollment is when you're taking college-level classes while you're in high school. The best part about dual enrollment is it's free. So your students are going ahead and getting college credit while in high school for 0 cost. Most schools nowadays have a dual enrollment program, and you can take probably up to about 10 classes through dual enrollment. That starts to become available in 10th grade, but it's really just your CTA classes, which I'll talk about. And then International Baccalaureate, that's more scarce in the high schools around here, but those are going to be IB classes that are basically an international curriculum that also get taught at international schools around the world. So 10th grade dual enrollment opportunities. Dual enrollment, the classes you can take at college. So Gwinnett Tech right down the street, students can go to the Gwinnett Tech and they're going to be in classes with adults, but they're going to get that college credit for free. As a 10th grader, you can only take career, technical, and agricultural education classes. So those are going to be more like, you can take like dental assistant classes. You can take agricultural classes. It's a good way for students to explore different interests so that when they are thinking about college, they have an idea of what they want to study. The CTA classes, they're going to differ from college to college, and you guys can find information about that at Georgia Futures. I'll give you guys all these resources, by the way. But CTA classes are really good just to explore, and they will count as your elective credit. So it's not just you taking extra classes, it's actually going to go towards your high school graduation requirements as well. Be mindful of your workload. So like I said earlier, don't burn yourself out as a 9th or 10th grader. It's important that you have rigorous classes, but you don't want to have rigorous classes and all C's. It'd be better to take a mix of honors classes on level and AP classes where you're getting all A's and B's rather than seven APs with 7 C's. And then keep in mind with dual enrollment classes, it's a college level course, so students do need to be self-motivated, self-responsible, and they're not going to have a teacher on them all the time. So if you think about dual enrollment, just keep that in mind. 11th grade. So this is what students typically say. 11th grade is arguably, and maybe some of the 11th graders here or the 12th graders can attest to this, but it's typically the hardest year. You're taking the most APs, the most honors classes, but it's also a very vital year. It could be arguably the most important year of high school. The hardest year, make sure you're loading up 11th grade year on your APs, your dual enrollment, your honors and IB classes. When you guys are getting your teacher recommendations, you're allowed to disagree with them. There are requirements for each AP class and honors, and your teachers are trying to set you up for success. But if you guys think that you should be in a higher level class or would like to be, you can challenge that based on state guidelines. So always talk to your teachers and your counselors about what you think is best for you. Typically, yourself and your family is going to know what's best for you. And then continue heavy involvement in school and your community. So I'm talking a lot about academics right now, but I'm also going to talk about the importance of being involved in organizations like this, getting your volunteer hours. But continue both taking hard classes, but also continue your extracurricular involvement. It's the last year to add to your resume before you start applying to colleges. So colleges aren't going to see a lot of what you're doing your senior year. So if you get to the end of junior year and you're like, oh shoot, I don't have volunteer hours, it's going to be really hard to get that before senior year. So between 9th, 10th, 11th grade, make sure you're focusing on what you want to show in your college application. Don't just start thinking about college when you're a senior. At that point, it's almost too late. And then there are some scholarships and college prep opportunities that become available junior year that I want you guys to be aware about and I'm going to talk about. A lot of times schools start talking about scholarships just to seniors, but those actually start becoming available for juniors and they're really good opportunities. So again, building your resume 9th, 10th, and 11th so you're ready to start applying to some of those. Also, in 11th grade, start visiting colleges. Some high schools offer college visits. If you guys are able as a family to take students on trips or even in organizations like this to be able to take students to different campuses, that way students are able to get a feel for what it's like on specific campuses. Are you going to be happier at Georgia Tech, which is in the center of Atlanta, or are you going to be happier at University of Georgia? Or do you want to go out of state? The best way to know is to get to the campus itself so those current students and professors can tell you about them. If you aren't able to visit, there's a number of different YouTube videos and a number of different videos on the college websites that'll tell you about the college itself. Junior year, you should be taking your first, if not second attempt at the SAT or ACT. I know a lot of the counties are moving towards offering a free SAT or ACT. If your school or your county isn't doing that, try to advocate for that. I think it's $65 for the SAT or ACT. So if you can get your school to offer it for free, then that's a great thing. And then enroll in those SAT, ACT prep classes, the ones you have here or ones that are offered through Princeton Review or any of the other college prep classes. And then begin researching colleges and majors in depth. It can get kind of tricky, especially if you're trying to go into grad school and stuff. Have an idea of the steps you're going to take to get there. If you want to be a doctor, what do you need to study as a bachelor's degree? Things like that. And have those conversations with your counselors, with your teachers. Just do the research and ask as many questions as y'all have. So these are some of the opportunities. This is really just a few, but a few of the opportunities for 11th graders. The Governor's Honors Program. Raise your hand if you've heard of the Governor's Honors Program. If you are a strong student, you have good grades, you have an interest in specific fields, talk to your counselor about being nominated for the Governor's Honors Program. It's based on, I think, GPA, what else, Ashwa?
Lots of things, I guess. It kind of depends on the subject you get nominated in. So some, like for social studies, for example, I went for social studies. Nishantra went for math, and then Adi for physics, right? Engineering. So it kind of depends on what subject you get nominated in. And you get nominated kind of by like your subject teachers, whoever teaches that. And so it varies from school to school, but like she said, your counselors at that school would definitely know a lot about it. And you should definitely, if you're really strong, if you're a very like high achieving student and you're very passionate about a specific subject, it's definitely something you should look into. We went all last summer, and it's a great experience. And so your counselors are definitely the people you should talk to about that because they know a lot and they'll help you throughout that entire application process.
So it's an application process. It requires an application, interviews, a bunch of different stuff. Thank you, Ashwa. And it's a way just again to build your resume. You get to meet a bunch of different people. It's in the summer of your junior year, so right before you start your senior year. And that's a good opportunity. Another good opportunity is Questbridge College Prep Scholars Program. Raise your hand if you've heard of that, Questbridge. Okay, so Questbridge is a scholarship. We typically hear about Questbridge when it comes to seniors. Questbridge is a need-based scholarship, so it's based on finances, and you apply, and then it's a full ride, meaning it pays for all of your college when you go to college. 4 years of college, it pays for everything from textbooks to dorm to tuition. But it's a very competitive program. Questbridge College Prep Scholars is junior year, and it's when you start thinking about Questbridge and you apply to that as well, but it's going to help you prepare for the scholarship program. That's also going to be junior year, so students that are juniors now can start applying to that if you meet the criteria. And then if you don't meet the criteria for Questbridge, but you're also interested in college prep programs, there's a bunch of different ones. The ones I'm most familiar with are like the Ivy League. There's a Princeton college prep program. University of South Carolina has a college prep program. But look into those universities that you're interested in going to. And then the college prep kind of helps you prepare your application, your essay, things like that, so that you're more likely to get admitted into the colleges that you want to attend. And then 12th grade. I like to start with relax, breathe, because like I said, 9th, 10th, and 11th is when the hard work is done. 12th grade is mainly meant to prepare your application. You've made it, you're almost done with high school, but that fourth bullet, finish strong, don't catch senioritis. All right, so senior year we tend to relax a little bit, but you still got to finish strong. Senior year you're going to be mainly applying to schools, and then you're going to be applying to scholarships. And I'm going to talk about the different types of scholarships in just a few minutes. So college applications. You're going to submit an application for admissions. This is typically done from the school website. So maybe you go to Georgia State University and you apply directly through that website. Common App is the other application that people use, and that's basically if you're applying to Georgia State, Kennesaw, and UGA. Instead of applying to 3 applications, you're just doing 1 application that gets sent to the 3 different schools. You're going to pay the college application fee. Ask your school about fee waivers. If you're on free or reduced lunch, in foster care, or a few other circumstances, you can qualify for a fee waiver. We typically recommend applying to 3 to 5 schools. You have a reach school, a school that you really want to go to but maybe you don't meet the requirements for, a target school, which is like you'd be happy to go there, you'd like to go there, and you're pretty sure you'll get into, and then a safety school. In case you don't get into any of those 2, what's a safe fallback for you? Send your official test scores. You'll send either your ACT from ACT.org or you'll send your SAT from College Board. All of this is talking mainly about four-year colleges and universities, but anybody who's interested in two-year schools, I can give you that information as well. And then have your high school transcripts in as well. That process is gonna look different from school to school, so just pay attention in your classes and how they want you to do that. And then the other materials, which I'm gonna touch on, are things like essays, counselor and teacher letters and recommendations, and then sometimes schools will have you do an interview process. So what makes up a great application? Rigorous courses, APs, IBs, dual enrollments, having a competitive GPA. When you're thinking about your GPA, think about one thing that I didn't mention, but I should mention, AP classes. If you're really concerned about a high GPA, AP classes are going to help you with your GPA. They add 10 points to your classes. Dual enrollment classes do not help with your GPA as much as AP classes. So think about where your goals are. Extracurricular involvement through sports, clubs, and music. If you play a high school sport or a sport in the community, make sure you are listing that on your application. If you're part of a dance team or a dance group, list that. If you play a musical instrument, that's really just showing schools that you're bringing something to their school and that you have certain characteristics like being part of a team, you can collaborate, you are committed to a musical instrument. Those are things that schools are looking for as well. Volunteer experience, so being parts of organizations that volunteer, work experience, all of those things you want to include when you're applying. And then strong letters of recommendation and a unique admissions essay, which we're also going to talk about briefly. So when we look at essay topics, I'm not sure if you guys can read all those, but these are the essay topics that Common App used for colleges. So as you guys are going through high school and thinking about what are some topics I might write about. These are this year's. They can change from year to year, but they generally remain somewhat the same. But as you're going through high school and having different life experiences, think about what you might want to share with an admissions representative. What makes you unique? Why do they want you at their university? So just to read a few of these, and you guys can find these as well on the internet. But some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful, they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. Reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? Reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? So you guys can kind of think about that as you're going through high school to see what can you include in those essays. And then letters of recommendation. This is when that piece of networking comes into play. As a counselor, I write probably, 100 letters of recommendation, and I only know some of those students personally. Maybe 15 or 20 of them I know very well, like what Oshawat's involved in, the awards he's won, and I can write to that. But not every student I know. So the more time you have to connect with your teachers and your counselors so that they can get to know you and write a personalized essay or a personalized letter, the better. Make sure you ask them politely and nicely. Maybe go up to them, hey, Miss Ingwerson, can you write me a letter of recommendation for University of Georgia? And then give them plenty of time to write it. The worst thing is when a student comes in 2 days before it's due and asks for you to write a letter of recommendation. That's a recipe for you guys to get a very basic letter that is just in a standardized format that's used for most students. So make yourself stand out to your professors and to your counselors. When you're thinking about teachers, use your 11th grade teachers. You're most fresh in their mind. They know you more than maybe a 9th grade teacher remembers. And then also provide them with a form. Most schools will give you a form that gives you space to write what you're interested in, the things you've been involved in, include your transcript. But if they don't, make sure to give your counselors and teachers that you're asking a printout of things that are specific to you. That way we can write specific details about who you are as a student. Okay? And then just to touch on scholarships briefly, the Hope Scholarship and the Zell Miller Scholarship, raise your hand if you've heard of either of those. Hope Scholarship, Zell Miller. Okay, so that's the most familiar. These two on the left-hand side, Hope Scholarship and Zell Miller Scholarship, are the scholarships for 4 years colleges and universities in the state of Georgia. And then the Hope Grant and Zell Miller Grant are for 2-year and technical schools. Hope Scholarship is going to cover 90% of tuition, and it's going to be based on if you have a 3.0 calculated Hope GPA. Hope GPA is different than your school GPA because it only takes into account your core curriculum classes. It doesn't take into account your electives. So if you got a 100 in PE, it's not going to take that into account. There are citizenship requirements for it, and that should say FAFSA, but you should have completed your FAFSA to be able to get that, or the GSF apps. And then you have to be seeking enrollment in a Georgia university. That's for public school. You can apply it to a private school, but the amount is going to be a lot less. Zell Miller Scholarship is going to be 100% of tuition, and it's going to have the same requirements as the Hope Scholarship, but in addition, you have to have a 3.7 GPA, and then you either have to have a 1200 on the SAT or a 26 on the ACT. Now you can take that SAT or ACT as many times as you need senior year to get that score, but you do have to meet that before you enroll in the college. And then that pays for full tuition. There is talk, I believe, they're waiting on the governor to sign it, but I believe starting the year after next that Hope is going to cover 100% of tuition as well. And then just to talk a little bit about the different kinds of scholarships, I've kind of split them up in these 4 categories, but the first one is institutional and merit-based scholarships. So those are specific to the university you're attending. So Georgia Tech has scholarships like the Presidential Scholarship, and that's going to give you 100% of tuition and room and board as well, but those are specific to the university that you're going to attend. So when you're applying to schools, also look at the scholarships that each school offers. Most schools will give you some sort of scholarship on merit, meaning your grades, your GPA. And so just ask admissions representatives those questions as well as to what kind of scholarships they offer. Sports, music, and other talent scholarships, you can get those through institutions if you want to play a sport in college or if you want to join their band or orchestra. They may be willing to give you money to do that, but you can also Google those on your own to see if there's scholarships that you can independently find. If you're ever in question about a scholarship, ask your counselor to verify it. You should never have to pay to get scholarships. So never pay money for a search or for somebody to give you a scholarship. All scholarships will be free of cost when you're finding them. I typically recommend with those and the independent scholarships to make a separate email address, like lindsay.ingersonsscholarships@gmail.com. That way if they're spamming you a lot of different scholarships, it's not bombarding your inbox, but you can check that every so often to see what kind of scholarships are available or which ones you want. And then the national scholarships are going to be scholarships like QuestBridge, the bigger scholarships that hopefully you guys are hearing about in your schools, but QuestBridge, GATS scholarship, Dream.us scholarship. There's a lot of different scholarships out there, which I can give you guys a list of the ones we have at Duluth, but all your counselors will be able to help you guys with those as well. So I'm a little bit biased since I am a counselor, but definitely lean on your counselors at your schools. And then I know you guys also have questions about FAFSA. FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid, and this is what the government uses for eligibility for your financial student aid, federal financial student aid. So this includes things like grants, which are money that they give you that you don't have to pay back, for work study, when you work at the university while you're attending it and they pay you, and loans, so money that you do have to pay back with interest. All students that are applying to a university and planning to attend should try to complete their FAFSA. This is because it gets sent to the university, and then the university also gets that financial aid information and can offer additional funds and scholarships through the FAFSA, because then they're going to see your economic need as well. It opens October 1st every year, so you'll do it senior year, October 1st. And then if you do not have a social security number, they can give you a non-citizen registration ID. And basically what it's going to ask for is tax information, and then it's going to determine your EOC or your estimated, or EFC, estimated family income, and give you the amount of aid that you need. The money that they offer you, you can accept or decline. They may say, here's a $20,000 loan. You can decide, I only want $5,000 of that. Nothing that they send you is set in stone, so you're allowed to decline it. And then at Duluth, we have a FAFSA night. We typically allow families from other areas to come, so I can let you guys know when that would be. But your schools hopefully have a FAFSA night. If not, again, advocate that they do have that so that you guys have help in filling out those forms, because it can be quite confusing. But again, we're happy to have you at Duluth as well at our FAFSA nights. And then, thank you. Any questions? That's my email address, and then that's my personal office phone. So you guys are welcome to email me or call me, and I'm happy to help with anything. Yes?
So basically, I have a question saying that if you complete your junior year, I'm a sophomore at Denmark High School.
Mm-hmm.
So if you complete your junior year and then you're doing applications, right? Could you do reevaluation applications if you didn't get to your specified college?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When are you talking about after?
After you complete the fall application.
So.
In June, in senior year.
So reapply during senior year.
Yeah.
Typically, schools will either accept, decline, or waitlist you. And sometimes when they waitlist you, they'll let you send in additional material. So in your mid-year transcript, other things that might increase your application. But typically during that senior year, I don't believe they let you reapply if you've been declined.
My counselor, he said that you were allowed to reevaluate later in the year and in the second semester, or you reallocate. I'm not sure if it's a foresight thing or Fulton thing, because.
What do you mean by reevaluate?
Send a second application.
A lot of times they send your mid-year transcript, which will show them how you did first semester senior year, and with that you could send more materials, but it won't be a full application.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you guys heard of anything like that? Okay, yeah, it would typically be a mid-year transcript, but you should, that initial application, definitely put your best effort in that one.
Maybe he means an early action thing, if you get deferred.
Early action?
Yeah, maybe something like that.
So early action is when you apply early before the regular admissions deadline, and sometimes if they defer decline you then, they'll say, but you can go ahead and reapply with regular admissions, and that's when you could do another application. So sometimes, those early application deadlines are typically October 15th or November 1st, whereas December 1st or April 1st may be the regular. So you might apply to that first set, they say no, and then you can reapply. Thank you. Anybody else? Any questions? Yes, sir.
You mentioned in the slide stating that the dual enrollment does not carry as much weightage as the AP course.
Yes.
Are you saying it's not recommended to take a dual enrollment course?
So it gets kind of tricky. So in terms of rigor, dual enrollment classes look strong. But when it comes to your GPA, at least in Gwinnett County. We take, when a school sends us, a college sends us your transcript and the student got a 9 or a A in their dual enrollment class, we take a 95 because we don't get a numeric average. So in an AP class, a student could actually get a 100. So a 95 is the highest